In this video, I will explain my sociology research called The Social Climber Towards Grade 10 Student in St. John Catholic School Academic Year 2019-2020. I will discuss this topic based on the mini thesis that I have made a few months ago. Enjoy! Before we start discussing this research, the reason why I chose this topic is because the phenomenon of social climbing nowadays is quite familiar in millennials era. Social climbing very much influences teenagers' character on how they socialize. It can also affect their personality and psychological. The society can be cruel sometimes. They demand a person's appearance, lifestyle, and even the person who we should hang out with. These changes teenagers' point of view on how to act and adapt in society. Social climbing behavior is very closely related to social media. Most teenagers in this era grew up with social media that has worldwide connection. Many different people's lifestyle affect the way a person wants to be seen and recognized in a society. Because of these certain requirements to be accepted in a group or in a society, the society starts to have social standards. The impact of social standard among teenagers make them try to do things that mostly impact negatively for their psychological. The attitude of social climber is against the norm in society because the action of a social climber is something that they would do beyond reasonable limits. Social climber means the act of trying to improve your social status by being very friendly to people from a higher social class. The society stimulates teenagers' mind by shaping their mindset to eccentric matters. While social standards are the unwritten rules of behavior that are considered acceptable in a group or society. This is how to keep the society functioning, not just with direct rules. But as people's relationship and peer group changes, the word social standard change into social expectation. Because the use of social standard is to keep the society functioning, it has been taken too far. This slowly changes standard to become expectation. And because of this, people are demanded to fulfill desire of the society. People constantly concern more to please others. So why do they live adjusting to the social standards? Based from the data collected, teenagers then try to adjust with the social standard to prove their existence. According to experts, the main cause of this pressure caused by a low self-esteem. They always see other person better than themselves in terms of appearance, career, quality, and personality, and because of that, they start to comparing themselves with others. Research location for this report is taken in St. John Catholic School, South Tangerang, BSD. The research object or the population were 10 grader students of St. John Catholic School, taken as many as 89%. Sample are part of population with the same characteristic to represent the population. Sample in this research were some of the students from 10 Peter, 10 Mary, Thomas, and John. The research methods or the research approach applied in this research was task method. This involves giving out questionnaire, and this method was expected to find out the motive of teenagers that place a great importance on popularity in a society. This research method is a descriptive research which aims at describing the actual condition. The data collecting method for this research used library research, field research, observation, documentation, and giving out questionnaire. For the data processing technique, the researcher used editing technique, which is examining all the questionnaire to check their completeness, scoring, and tabulating the data in a form of pie chart or use tally. For the data analyzing technique, the researcher translates the raw data into tally or percentages. After the researcher finds the percentages of each question, the researcher will do scoring. In this chapter, I will show you the result of my research. From the graphic pie chart above shows that 93% of the questionnaire is filled by female student as many as 14 students, while the other 7% of the questionnaire is filled by male student as many as 10 students. The pie chart above shows that 82% of the respondent as many as 18 students thinks that social climbing is an attempt to portray a higher social status, while the other 18% as many as 6 students think social climbing is not an attempt to portray a higher social status. The graphic pie chart above shows that 69% of the respondent, as many as 15 students, agree that this social climbing phenomenon is a form of finding their identity, while the other 31% of the respondent, as many as 9 students, disagree that this phenomenon is a form of finding their identity. The graphic pie chart above shows that 36% of the respondent, as many as 8 students, thinks that social climber live adjusting to the social standard because they want to fit in, while the other 9% of the respondent, as many as 3 students, thinks that they want to be recognized as socialite. The rest of the 55% of the respondent, as many as 13 students, thinks both answer is correct. The graphic pie chart above shows that 22% of the respondent, as many as 5 students, thinks why social climbing is bad because their motive to be friends with other people is based on the desire of wanting to be popular, while 46% of the respondent, as many as 12 students, thinks that social climbing is bad because they're manipulative. The rest of the 32%, as many as 7 students, thinks both ends are correct. The graphic pie chart above shows that 69% of the respondent, as many as 17 students, thinks that socializing through social climbing is a good way to socialize, while the other 31% of the respondent, as many as 7 students, thinks that social climbing is not a good way to socialize. The graphic pie chart above shows that 69% of the respondent, as many as 17 students, would not be friend with social climber, while the other 31% of the respondent, as many as 7 students, would still be friend with social climber. The graphic pie chart above shows that 69% of the respondent, as many as 17 students, thinks glamour lifestyle in a society can influence or encourage teenagers to change the way they socialize, while the other 31% of the respondent, as many as 7 students, did not think that glamour lifestyle can encourage teenagers to change the way they socialize. The graphic pie charts above shows that 45%, as many as 11 students, describe social climber Starter Pack as a person who has every latest collections of branded product, have millions of followers on social media, and like to be the center of the spotlight, while 46% of the respondent, as many as 11 students, describe as someone who's overly concerned with their appearance and only friends with social life, while the other 9%, as many as 2 students, describe a social climber person as a selective friend poacher and a queen bee. The graphic pie charts above shows that 69% of the respondent, as many as 17 students, thinks that a social climber person is not reliable, while the other 31% of the respondent, as many as 7 students, thinks that social climber person can be reliable. The graphic pie charts above shows that 73% of the respondent, as many as 18 students, agree that the action of social climber wanting to be popular because they feel insecure, while the other 27% of the respondent, as many as 6 students, did not agree that the actions of a social climber is because they feel insecure. The graphic pie charts above shows that 82% of the respondent, as many as 20 students, thinks that the action of a social climber is because they want fame, while the other 18%, as many as 4 students, thinks that the social climber person did it just for fun. The graphic pie charts above shows that 9% of the respondent, as many as 2 students, considered themselves as a social climber, while the other 91%, as many as 22 students, did not consider themselves as a social climber. So based on the analysis that have been made from the research above, we can conclude several causes of social climbing behavior. 1. Most teenagers did social climbing in their society because they feel insecure and feel intimidated by others. They often mistreated by others that leads to make them do whatever it takes to be popular. 2. It is shown that most social climbers' action is not a good way of socializing or making friends with others, because the motive of their friendship is based on wanting to be popular or to have a higher social status. Although, some respondent claims that they would still be friends with a social climber person, while the rest would rather not be friends with them anymore. 3. Social climbing action, commonly known with socialite lifestyle. Teenager psychology can be influenced very easily. Glamour lifestyle could change the way socialize. When they start to get used to live in a socialite neighborhood, they could be arrogant and couldn't care less about their surrounding. And 4. To be the center of the spotlight, social climber tends to live adjusting to the social standards and always prioritize other people's expectation. In other words, they would be other people pleaser in order to be accepted in a group or society.